In this video, we're going to talk about the menu resources that we define for the menus in the AddressBook app. Now, in the prior uses of menus in the Flag Quiz app and in the Doodles app, we showed you how to programmatically create the menus and their menu items. In this app, we're actually going to declaratively create those types of menu items, and we're going to inflate them programmatically using a so-called menu inflator. Now, in the case of the AddressBook activity, which you see running here inside of my AVD, if you hit the menu button, you can see that a little menu pops up at the bottom here with the Add Contact menu item, and you'll also notice for the first time that we're using an icon along with the menu item as well. Now, it turns out that Android has lots of built-in icons, and you can take advantage of those, as we're going to do in this app. And what I'd like to show you first of all here is that wherever your Android SDK is installed, and again I happen to be working on Windows, within that folder there will be a Platforms folder, and I'm just going to navigate back to there for a moment, and you can see I have many different versions of the Android platform installed, and within each version there are icons that you can access via the subfolder Data and the subfolder Res. And the icons are organized, as you can see here, into lots of subfolders. The ones that I worked with are in the drawable HDPI folder. And as you can see, if I start scrolling here, in fact I'll just use my scroll wheel to do so, there are lots and lots of different icons that you can choose from. So basically we went into this folder and we located icons that we thought made sense for our AddressBook app. So going back over to the app now, you can see here that we have the plus button for adding a contact. And then separately, if I go look at the details of a particular contact and I hit the menu button, you'll see that we have the edit contact option with the pencil icon to indicate editing, and the X icon for deleting a contact as well. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can actually refer to these icons. One is to use them as standard Android icons, and we'll show you the syntax for doing that in the code in a moment. And the other is you can actually copy the icons out of the appropriate drawable folders that I just showed you in the platforms, whatever Android version you have, Data, Res, and then the appropriate drawable folder. You can copy those and place them into the corresponding drawable folder of your project. And one benefit of doing it that way is if a particular icon is not available in some other version of Android on which your app can still execute, then the icon, having been built into your project, will still work for your app. On the other hand, there are some number of these icons that are not actually considered to be standard, and if you move from one platform to another, it is possible that certain icons may not be available, or perhaps they look different and you really want to keep the same look and feel of your app regardless of which platform version you're targeting. So again, if you want to, you can copy icons like the ones that you see here into your project. In our case, for this app, we're going to refer to the icons from the menu resources using the standard Android icon syntax, and I'll talk about the other syntax as well when we look at that. Now, again, we had menus that we showed you for two different activities. We had the AddressBook activities menu, which is defined by AddressBookMenu.xml, and we had the ViewContact activities menu, which is defined in this separate XML file. Now, I'm going to open one of them for a moment, and you can see that we have the menu editor here, which allows you to add new items to the menu, and you can add either groups of items or individual items. Groups are used when you have to group menu items together for logical purposes in a program. And separately, I can also look at this in XML view so that we can talk about the different attributes that we've set so far on this menu, and I'll show you what the editor looks like as well for adding a menu item in a moment. Now, the way we created this XML file was to go to the File menu, like we do for all Android XML files, New, Other, and then we select an appropriate file. In this case, you don't see one that's specific to menus, so we just say Android XML file and click Next. You can see that there's lots of different resource types you can create, one of which is menu, which was already selected because that's what I used last when I last used my IDE. And the root element for a menu is menu. You would then give it a name, and automatically that file will be placed into the res menu subfolder that you see here in my address book project. Now, initially you'll have lines 1, 2, and 8 in the new file that you create, and then you have to add items to the menu. So here we have our one item in the address book menu. We've given it an ID, add contact item, and you'll notice that we have a title here, which is the string resource menu item add contact. And we also have a title condensed, which is the same string resource in my program, but the difference between the two of them is one will get used when you have lots of space for the menu item, and the title condensed would get used if the title cannot fit in the allocated width of the menu item itself. We also have specified an Android icon in this case. The icon attribute is being specified with standard Android drawable syntax. So when you say Android : drawable, that indicates that we're using a standard Android icon. And then we specify the name of the icon without its file name extension. So if I go back over to the folder here, you can see that these icons are all PNG files. But when I specify it as a resource, I just give it the name without the extension. And what this will do is, for whatever Android platform I am targeting, it will go into the appropriate platform folder and load up the icon ic_menu_add. The other benefit you get out of using this syntax is that you may have noticed we have lots of different drawable folders here. So drawable HDPI, as you recall, is for high density pixel screens, but there's also drawable LDPI and drawable MDPI, for example, as well. And based on the screen resolution, the appropriate icon would get selected for you by Android itself. At line 7, we also specified an alphabetic shortcut, and like we did on the title condense and title properties, we should have used a string resource here to make this more localizable, if you will. Remember that by extracting all strings from your code and placing them into a string resource file, you can actually have separate string resources for different spoken languages. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention is going back to the icon here. Again, you can use drawables that are just located in your drawable folders. In that case, had I placed into the drawable HDPI folder, for example, the PNG file for ic_menu_add, then I would refer to it without Android : at the beginning here. So I would just pick off the drawable called ic_menu_add, and that presumably would be stored in one of these drawable folders in my res subfolder of the project. So this is our address book menu, and again, we're going to dynamically inflate this when we use a menu inflator inside of the application's code. So just going back over here now to the layout tab, I want to show you what happens when you add a new item to a menu. So to do so, you would click the Add button, select Item, and click OK. And then we get the editor that allows us to specify the values for all of the different attributes. So for example, here you see the title and title condensed attributes and the icon attribute as well that we had specified in the XML file. Now let's go and take a look at the other menu layout, ViewContact menu here. And as you can see, we have two items, both of which have Android IDs, edit item and delete item respectively. We also specify the title and title condensed for each of these items. And we have some new features as well. For example, here at line 5, we have the order in category option, and again here at line 10. And by specifying the order in category as 1 for the edit item and 2 for the delete item, we're saying that we want the edit item to appear before the delete item in the menu. We also specified alphabetic shortcuts for each of these items, E and D, and if the user has a keyboard that gives them access to the menuing system on their device, they could press the menu shortcut key in that case to select a particular menu item. Now, for both of these, once again, we specified standard Android icons. So we have the Android drawable IC menu edit, and we have the Android drawable down here IC delete as well.